Hello there, I'm Lou Wieland, and I publish the official relocation guides for Atlanta that are distributed by the First Multiple Listing Service of Atlanta. The magazines are placed in all of the real estate brokerage firms throughout the city for distribution to people moving here and people purchasing homes. And they're on my website, atlantacommunityprofiles.com. And they're also on the multiple listing service, the First Multiple Listing Service website. And we also we email the magazines out to the realtors regularly, like every week or every 10 days. And so if you would like a copy, send me a request at lou@louwheeland.com. We have 5 publications for different parts of town. And Atlanta, inside 285, North Fulton, Gwinnett, and Cobb. And I'm also a realtor with KW Commercial, if I can help you with any of your real estate needs. Again, same email, lou@louwheeland.com. My focus is office, land, and multifamily. And be happy to help you with any of your real estate needs as well. And every week or so, we interview community leaders and community and business leaders. And today we are privileged to have as our guest the mayor of the great city of Alpharetta, Jim Gilvin. Welcome to the show, Jim. You were on the show maybe 4 years ago, maybe 3 years ago. Great to have you back.
Thanks, Lou. It's great to be back, man. Lots changed in the last 3 years, hasn't it?
Really? I mean, I think we interviewed you in right after you were elected. You were elected in 2018, I think. So, you
Yes,
were on
sir.
the city council for a long time. You started in 2011, and on the Alpharetta City Council as 4 years as liaison to the city parks and recreation and cultural services, followed by 2 years with the liaison to the public safety department. And then, of course, in 2018, you were elected mayor. You also are on the board, I guess, of the Alpharetta Convention and Visitors Bureau and on the advisory board of the Ed Isaacson Alpharetta YMCA and the Wellstar North Fulton Hospital. Jim, I know you graduated from Georgia Southern. Your wife is Mary Ann, and you have 2 children. You got married in 1995. You have 2 children, Justin and Sarah, and you attend Mount Pisgah United Methodist Church, which is a great church. I know the church, and they do a wonderful job. So, Jim, it's good to have you back and talk about a few things that I know are near and dear to your heart and to the hearts of the roughly 66,000 residents there. And I wanted to just bring our viewers up to date on a couple of facts about real estate. And Jim, in your town, your great city, the median price of a home is up to $575,000 at the end of September, at the end of just last week. And the average is $675,000. For the city as a whole, the metro area, the median price is $406,750 for detached. I'm sorry, that's the median of yours. The median of your city is $406,750. The median for the city metro area is $235,000. And so basically, those numbers show a lot about your city. It's a very affluent city. And things are moving along really well. It's an exemplary city for progress and being well managed.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. And people might want to know that the closings, everybody's hearing all about all the changes in the interest rates and everything, and closings are actually down 9%, but an interesting fact is that while closings are down 9%, prices are up 15%. Inventory is up 59%, so there are more houses on the market than there were quite a lot than this time last year. So people, I'm sure, who are interested in buying will be happy to know that. Jim, how would you care to kind of give people just a brief overview of the city and from your perspective as mayor?
Sure, I'd be glad to. Thanks. So, for anyone who's not familiar with Alpharetta 4 decades ago was a very small rural suburban community. And since the 1980s, there has been a tremendous rush of technology companies and technology professionals that, because of the environment we provided, which is a great place to raise a family, in addition to attract great talent and build a business, it provides a balance that even now is more desirable than it was, say, 5 or 10 years ago. And it's much more difficult to find a community that has quite the amenities that Alpharetta has now. As you kind of alluded to earlier, over the last 10 years, Alpharetta has gone from being a nice suburban technology hub with, 20 million square feet of office space, Class A office space, into a community that has really become an economic driver here in Fulton County. Fulton County is the largest population in the state of Georgia with over 1 million residents, includes the city of Atlanta with nearly 500,000 of those residents. And Alpharetta, although our population is a little over 65,000, according to the latest census, and although our geographic area is only about 27 square miles, Alpharetta actually provides the third largest economic driver in the Fulton County area, behind Atlanta and Sandy Springs. So we generate a tremendous daytime population. It's hard to find hard numbers now, but prior to COVID and before the large shift to more flexible schedules, about 65,000 people used to come into our city every day from other areas. So our daytime population was almost double what it is at night. And that's pretty extraordinary. I think we were one of the largest daytime population growth cities in the country. And so we also have, as you alluded to in the real estate property values, Alpharetta has become such an attractive area to people around the country and around the world that our housing has been in high demand from people who have come from even more expensive areas and have decided that Alpharetta provided the environment that they wanted to work from when they had more flexibility of determining where they could work from. And so we're excited. We've got tremendous amenities. We've got trails like the Greenway, which is a park-like setting that extends for about 8.5 miles through Alpharetta along the Big Creek Basin. We also have the more urban environment walking trails like the Alpha Loop, which connects a lot of our office spaces with the restaurants and the hotels and the amenities that we provide. We've also got two of the most, I would say, heralded mixed-use developments in the Southeast, if not the nation, that being Avalon, which has become just a tremendous attractive asset within our community. People come from miles around throughout the Southeast to enjoy the hotels, the restaurants, the facilities there at Avalon, about a 63-acre mixed-use development. And our downtown area, which over the last 10 years we've been successful in reviving. It's become a very popular area. Actually, this weekend we're hosting Wire and Wood, a singer-songwriter festival, and we expect tens of thousands of people to come visit us.
So I might add that the median age in Alpharetta is 37. So you have a young, relatively young population, at least compared to me, that's for sure. Also,
and me, unfortunately.
Yeah. It's better than the alternative, though. 65% of your population has a college degree, and the median household income is $102,000 per year. So you have a well-educated, affluent citizenry, and you do have, and I guess that helps to explain why you have so many wonderful cultural and entertainment venues, including the amphitheater there, which is a magnificent venue. The anyway, we have a lot of golf courses, and I love golf. So I mean, it's about can't, I don't know anything that you don't have that people would want to come to see and live there. So, but I would like
We
to.
don't have a beach yet, so
Oh, that's
that's
right.
about the only thing that would make us perfect, I think.
Jimmy, you've done a great job as mayor, but if you can pull that off, you will be remembered forever if you can bring that in. I don't know if that's possible, but anyway,
No, I don't want any asteroids striking just so we can get beachfront property.
we won't have any hurricanes either. So if you don't have any beaches, so. But let's see. Let's talk about. We have a lot of things to talk about, including some of the multi-use developments that are going on. Can you help us to get a little information on that?
Absolutely, I'd be glad to. So, as I said, Alpharetta, with the development of Avalon, and for those of you that were around at the time, I was a real estate agent back in 2010, 2012. Still have a license, don't have
By the
time
way.
to practice. But coming out of the recession, when the real estate market was so devastated from 2008 to right around 2012, North American Properties actually came into Alpharetta, purchased 63 acres of, at that point, desolate cleared land, a big mud pit on the front door of our city, and created a really unique environment, a mix of residential, first class restaurants, a hotel convention center, Whole Foods, and a tremendous retail environment, AMC movie theater. And so when that came out, it was really one of the first major mixed use developments in the country coming out of the recession, and certainly the first in the Southeast. And so, with our experience at that time, the city of Alpharetta learned a lot in what it takes to create a vibrant, productive, mixed use environment. And it just so happened that at the same time, in 2012, the city of Alpharetta had been in the process of getting a bond issue issued or voted on by our voters, and we were creating a new downtown. So much of our downtown was a quiet little city center that really didn't have any sustaining businesses. There were a handful down there, but not many, one or two small restaurants. And so the city immediately began, as Avalon was coming up out of the ground about a mile away, we actually cleared out an old gas station, a shopping center from the 60s and 70s, tore down the old city hall, and just created what the vision of a new downtown would look like, artistically and architecturally, much like the feeling of a small southern town, creating that charm with high quality architecture, but also creating an environment that was conducive to people coming together in a small town environment. Whereas Avalon I refer to it as the yin and the yang. Avalon is much more of an urban environment, and it is tremendously successful because it attracts people from all over metro Atlanta, and people driving up to Alpharetta from inside the perimeter, which never would have happened 10, 20 years ago. But the experience of successfully redoing our downtown and helping manage Avalon get through that process with a great project has allowed us to incorporate other mixed use developments within our city, and we continue to do so. Right now, we have two that are currently under construction. We have one on Haynesbridge Road at Westside Parkway, and we also have another one called Lakeview that's right at the Haynesbridge exit on Georgia 400. And they are both in various stages of development. The Lakeview already has a major office component built. They're currently building the multifamily, and the other has just begun breaking ground there at West Side and Haynesbridge Road. In addition to that, we also have two zoning applications currently under consideration. One is Continuum, which is a project that is a re-envisioning of several acres, I forget the exact number, at the interchange of Windward Parkway and Georgia 400. It's on the west side of Georgia 400 if you're going north. And they're incorporating, it's currently several 100,000 square feet that was owned by Hewlett Packard, HPE, and now there's a property owner who wants to incorporate additional office space, but also a residential and a retail amenity component with restaurants to serve that office. And so I think that one may have just passed the Planning Commission last night, if I remember correctly. And we also have North Point Mall along North Point corridor. North Point Mall was at one time the largest mall, indoor mall in the Southeast. Back in '93, I believe the ribbon was cut on that one. And now, given the change in malls and retail in general, they have a new owner, New York Life, who's working with a development group called Trademark and trying to come up with the right mix to create another vibrant mixed-use development right there between Haynesbridge and Mansell Road in Alpharetta. So we've got a lot going on, in addition to some other projects that haven't been completed.
Jim, you have 27 hotels, and the last time I checked, you had 8 new hotels coming, and my information is a little old. Is that updated? You have updated information?
That is a little old. So we're up to 30 that are open now. We have one that is currently under construction. There are some that are allowed by right that aren't currently being built. So I don't know that it'll go beyond 31 in the near future, but there's certainly that potential. And a lot of that's driven by the great environment that we've created, that people want to spend weekends here and they want to spend conferences at Avalon with the convention center on that parcel.
Okay, so Jim, the nickname for the city is the Technology City of the South. How does it come to earn that nickname?
Well, it's interesting. When I was first elected in 2011, I came on board at the same time we had a new mayor that was elected. His name was David Belle-Isle. And so David Belle-Isle, as we all came in, there were, I think, 4 of us that came in on that election cycle, and 3 new council members and a new mayor. We started looking around at, okay, the bond issue for downtown had passed, kind of doing a new SWOT analysis for the new faces on council and our strengths and weaknesses. And it became apparent very quickly that our strength was the fact that we had one of the most talented workforces in the nation, that were a huge concentration of technology jobs. So back in the 1980s, Ross Perot and an investment group from Texas had come and laid a tremendous amount of fiber optic cable along Georgia 400 corridor through Alpharetta. And so very soon after that, data centers started popping up in the early 90s. Throughout the 90s, headquarters of AT&T, of LexisNexis, ADP, Verizon, back then I believe Nortel, all these technology companies started putting hubs in Alpharetta. And so when David realized that this was really a huge benefit to anyone in the technology company to have that much talent pool around and to have that much of an environment conducive to technology and innovation, that we started to market it. Hey, we're the best kept secret in the United States. Nobody knew about Alpharetta back then. And so that's how we began branding it as the Technology City of the South.
Well, not only that, but great restaurants. I mean, it seems like the number of great restaurants keeps growing like crazy. And people from all over the city now come to Alpharetta to have great meals at nice restaurants.
You're absolutely right. And like I said, a lot of it was just everything seemed to come together coming out of the last recession. Alpharetta knew that most people at the time, back in 2010, 2012, if they wanted to go out to a really nice meal and really nice restaurant, they had to either drive inside the perimeter or perhaps down to Sandy Springs, maybe even to Roswell. And so we started investing in infrastructure to support those restaurants in our downtown specifically. Avalon did a great job of creating their own restaurant scene on their property, and part of that development that was a critical anchor for them. And so we started building 2 parking decks, because one of the challenges for any restaurant is to have enough parking without having to spend a fortune to build parking. And so City of Alpharetta invested nearly $20 million to build, I think it's a little over 800 parking spaces in downtown, which helped some of these, restaurateurs, some of these investors to invest in our downtown and create environments and spend money on their architecture and on the amenities within their businesses, and great staffs and great chefs.
October the 24th is going to be a special day a couple of weeks from now regarding the Alpha Loop expansion. Tell us a little bit about that.
Absolutely. I'd be glad to. So, as I mentioned before, Alpharetta actually had a greenway before there was ever a belt line in Atlanta. So, in the late 90s, many of the developers of commercial properties near Big Creek, which is a creek that goes all the way from the Forsyth County line through Alpharetta, kind of parallel to the North Point Parkway corridor, and it extends down to Roswell and to the Chattahoochee. And so some of the developers really didn't have any use for wetlands, didn't want to have to pay the property taxes on it or maintain it. And so they donated a good portion of those properties to the city of Alpharetta. So we were successful in building that trail. It's one of our most active parks. It's a linear park that goes about 8 miles. And so shortly after Mayor Belle was elected, knowing how people loved the Greenway, we decided that maybe it would be a good idea to create connections inside the city. Like I said, the Greenway is a very, passive park, natural environment, but we have a lot of other creeks and we have a lot of other areas. So the Alpha Loop was basically a multi-purpose trail about 10 to 12 feet wide that was created to connect downtown Alpharetta, City Hall, all the way to Avalon. So that was the first mile, and it's been overwhelmingly successful. My wife and I relocated a couple of years ago when we downsized after our 2 kids went off to college, and we moved into a townhome right along the Alpha Loop, and we walk it every day with our dogs, and we see hundreds of our neighbors there. And so we've been expanding that Alpha Loop. We have designs and plans to extend it all the way from Thompson Street between Avalon and downtown Alpharetta through office parks along the North Winds corridor, adjacent to the 2 mixed-use developments I described along Haynesbridge Road. And we've even proposed a tunnel that would go under Haynesbridge Road at Georgia 400 and eventually go down to Encore Bridge and connect with the Greenway over at North Point. So we're excited about that.
That is exciting, especially for people like me who like to walk. And I don't
Absolutely.
know how many miles altogether will you have, and is there a projected number
Well,
roughly?
I don't know that we'll ever finish it because we keep looking for new ways to expand and extend. But I would say right now we've got about 19 miles designed, and we have funding to complete probably about half of that so far.
You have almost a full marathon for somebody. If they want to have a marathon, they can, 26 mile is a marathon, so
If
you
we
can,
get it to connect to the Greenway, we'll absolutely have that.
that'd be a great venue for a marathon. What what about office space? What's the office space picture like there now, post pandemic?
Right. Well, I appreciate that question because it's definitely changed. It seems like nobody really has a good feel for where the end line of this evolution is going. We're keeping our finger on the pulse. Certainly, there's a lot more hybrid and flex scheduling in Alpharetta right now. Um, our occupancies in most of the city have held up pretty well in this environment compared to other markets in Metro Atlanta or other parts of the country. Our occupancies are still fine. However, there is more subleasing taking place. And the challenge will be as we continue to evolve. And I say we, I mean everybody that has office space locations, especially concentrations like Alpharetta or Sandy Springs, down in Midtown areas like that, is the Metro Atlanta area has become so much more attractive in comparison to some of the previous areas and regions that competed with Atlanta for talent and for economic development. And we see a lot of companies, especially now that DEI is so important. Metro Atlanta has one of the most diverse employee groups in the world. And Alpharetta also is, despite what people think, a very diverse community. A lot of people still think of Alpharetta the way it was back in 1980s, but 24% of our population right now was born outside the United States of America. And I was stunned when I realized that a couple of years ago. But it's true because technology companies have brought in talent from around the world. And when they looked at where they wanted to be, they frequently ended up in Alpharetta. And so what we're seeing is that people are certainly being more flexible, especially the major employers, not necessarily because it's a corporate decision that flexible schedules is good for them. It's almost become a have to retain talent because it is such a challenge right now for any major employer or any small employer for that matter to attract employees and to retain them in this environment. And so it's still changing. We'll see how it shakes out. I think one of the things that we've been successful in so far, post COVID, is our community development department is tremendous, and they immediately started looking at ways to provide more flexibility for office space owners and potential employers. And by that, we've changed our local codes. Whereas certain uses such as lab, whether it's a biology lab or something like that, lab spaces are now allowed to a certain extent in our office parks by right. You don't have to come through a zoning if you've got a mortgage broker's office that you wanted to turn into, a lab or a bioscience facility and things like that. We've got some great bioscience companies here in Alpharetta like CSI and Clearside. And so we're trying to open up the opportunities for investors to find good uses to continue to invest in Alpharetta and their office spaces in this place.
Another good sign of your vibrancy there in Alpharetta is the hotel occupancy rate, which is 90% the last time I checked. Is that still holding up?
Not quite 90% anymore. You're right. Pre-COVID, we had some of the highest occupancies and average daily rates in the nation. Um, we still compare very well nationally and within the state of Georgia, but it depends. The challenge for most of our hoteliers now is that pre-COVID, Alpharetta used to be packed Monday through Friday with business travelers. And so the challenge for the ACVB was to recruit people for weekend events and drive in for the weekend trips and things like that. And it's somewhat reversed to this point that the convention business is recovering and business travel is resuming to a certain extent. But now our weekends are packed because of the amenities, the safe environment, and things like that we've already discussed. And so now it's still kind of at the mercy of the business traveler. And as business travel continues to increase, we anticipate the same here. but we're not in the 90% range anymore. I'd say it's probably more in the 70 to 78% range.
One thing I know you're hard at work on right now is that negotiating with the local occupancy sales tax with the county. Can you give our viewers an update on the status of those negotiations and the implications, ramifications, etc.?
I'll be more than glad to. As I mentioned earlier, I'm in the process as we speak. So the local option sales tax is probably the most dramatic issue facing Fulton County today. And since Fulton County is an economic driver for the entire state and contains 1/10 of the population of Georgia, the stakes are high. And so, for those that aren't familiar with, local option sales tax was legislation that passed about 30 years ago from the state that allowed a 1 penny sales tax to be created in the counties, to be shared by the counties and the cities. And the whole idea was to help create sales tax revenue to subsidize property taxes. So instead of local governments having to rely 100% on property taxes, especially in a county like Fulton County, where we have millions of visitors a year, it allows the sales tax to help give tax relief on a municipal level to the services that cities provide and counties provide if they're in unincorporated areas. Those services being police, fire, roads, things that are parks and rec that a city provides on a local level to help create a great environment and keep people safe. So that was the basis for the law. That's what it's about. However, when it was created, it requires a negotiation between the county and the cities in that county every 10 years after the new population census is taken. So we're currently in that process. The legislation also says that if cities with 51% of the population are not able to come to an agreement with the county on how those monies will be split up, then the sales tax goes away. That's huge. In a county like Fulton County, we're talking about $300 million a year that is currently being distributed almost entirely to the cities to provide those local services. Otherwise, property taxes would be the only thing we would have available to pay for police and fire and street lights and potholes fillings and things like that. And so right now it really is a dangerous juncture because Fulton County, the chairman has already said repeatedly that Fulton County doesn't feel they're getting enough of the sales tax revenue. And if we can't come to an agreement by December 30th, then we'll all just have to live without that $300 million a year, projected to be over $3 billion in the next decade. And the chairman just seems to dismiss it if they don't get the agreement that they're willing to sign.
Well, good luck, Jim. I know that you're a real estate sales guy, so you probably have a lot of acumen and persuasiveness. So good luck with that. We wish you success. And thank you very much for the phenomenal service that you render to the great city of Alpharetta and all the major improvements and changes that you've engineered and had served as a leader in implementing. So thank you very much.
I do appreciate my small role, but it takes a lot of people to get done what we've accomplished, and I'm grateful for all the support from our staff and our community.
Thank you for your leadership, Jim. And thank you for watching, everybody. We appreciate that, and we'll be sending this out. It'll be on my Facebook page, Lewis Wieland, and also we send it out in MailChimp to all the realtors and many other people throughout the metro area. And thank you for, again, your service, Jim. We admire the great job that you do. I know it's a great sacrifice to spend I know you spend a lot of hours, and you have been very successful. Thank you, and have a nice day.
Thanks, sir. Take care.